But yeah. Bimo, welcome. Nice. Sweet's taking over. But yeah, so I guess we can just do a little start with a recap, and then kind of what's next, what we're working on, and just as usual, if you have any questions, just post them in the chat, and we'll get to them in as good of order as we can. But yeah, so obviously last week was quite exciting. We announced the funding round, which is really fun. We've been kind of sitting on that one for a little bit, but it's I think it's got some really good investors on board, which really goes to prove our case. We oversubscribed around. I mean, I think we actually declined almost $1 million because at that point it didn't make sense to give away more. So the interest was definitely there. I think when we go through and explain what we're doing with the project, why this data is valuable, all the people that use it for various use cases, it's a $20 billion market. It's growing. It's quite exciting. And then now when we're talking to some pilot customers and prospects, the fact that we're building a network that is very different than what has been existing in the past. Because if you look at the other networks, although they're big and they're good in many cases, but they've simply copied the same model over and over and over. So there's been very little innovation in the flight tracking space over the last 10 or 15 years. So we're coming in and we're trying something different. We think it's very superior. Obviously, we still have far to go, but so far, it's been really exciting to have such an amazing community growing with us. So I just want to say thanks to everyone that's new and everyone that's been here, from some people from day one in here. Definitely would not be here without the community. So that's super exciting. And yeah, so gotten a lot of messages since last week. Right now what we're focusing on in this phase is really network growth, and I know we're working on some cool functions. I don't have an exact timeline, but one thing that we will implement here as soon as it's ready is it's very hard for someone now when they join to kind of get an idea of what the other people in that area, how many tokens they earn. And it makes it really difficult for people when they join to evaluate whether an area is worth it or not. So we're building a function that allows you to essentially go to the Explorer and look at like a claimed area, and you can see the earnings of that, whoever is in that area, and how much they cover, without obviously revealing any sensitive information. You won't know exactly where it is. You just know kind of the area. But we think adding more transparency to people when they join, they need to have a better way of evaluating where they host. So that's what we're working on now. Try to make that better. Obviously, the new website went live. I think it was last week. I can't remember. The new website we kind of rushed it because we needed to have something out before this funding round announcement. So just wanted to let you guys know that the look of the website is simply like a very first step in a much bigger process that will get essentially work to improve the user experience and user interface a lot, with new features, new functionalities, smoother map, more features on the map. So that's coming over the remainder of the year. But yeah, so that was step one. And we've been expanding the team a little bit. We have a couple of people joining now, October, November, which is exciting. We've added some people on the marketing side, because so far we really haven't done any marketing. We are going to start doing some throughout the rest of this year. And again, the goal is still to do the TGE before the end of the year. So now we have a lot of discussions with exchanges, trying to figure out the best strategy there, and so on and so forth. So that's kind of like a little summary, I guess. But yeah, I mean, if anyone in here have any questions, I know it's been a month. Like, feel free to post them in the chat. If you don't have any questions, I'll just talk to Mike. We'll go from there. Mike says, I'm not talking back.
Yeah. Just as a note, also, we're working on improving some other stuff. For anyone who hasn't noticed, the WB config tool is now automatically installed, actually, through daily updates, so that you have that tool available on your station in case you need to do any debugging, or you need to change the gain, or whatever you might need to do, or just change some quality of life stuff, like you like light mode instead of dark mode. I know there's some of you out there. So that's out there. As a heads up, we're also implementing a change to split some of our installation stuff. I realize you could say, well, there's only 100 and some odd stations coming on board. Why are you even messing with any kind of installation stuff if you're going to move to approved hardware? Obviously, it's because there's still the instance of someone needing to re-image their Pi, or image a new Pi because their hardware has failed. There's also various other reasons someone might be doing it just to test, even though they're not going to be contributing to the network. They may just want to test a setup. So we will continue to support installation on bring your own device or do-it-yourself devices, whatever you want to call them. So we're still making some strides there, trying to make things easier. For anyone who hasn't noticed, one of the changes that went in kind of recently was when you go to the stations page, there's a drop down now, and you can choose which station you want to set up. And instead of the old generic command line that you cut and paste into your window, your SSH window, you can now get a customized line that has all the values you used to have to type. So now it's literally just a copy, paste, hit enter, and installation goes through. You don't have to type anything. You just do a reboot at the end if it's your first install ever, and your station should be up, barring any physical or other issues. We also have updated documentation to try to help people make the right decisions for some of the stuff, choosing the right OS. We updated the documentation for walking through the new installation steps, which is actually much shorter. We used to have a bunch of steps, and now it's basically like, hey, log into SSH for the written guide, at least. Log into SSH, go here, change the drop down, hit the copy button, paste it in your Pi, and you're done. Yeah. That's other cool stuff that's been done behind the scenes that we may not necessarily announce or update you guys on, but it's stuff that happens.
Yeah, no, I thought that one was awesome. And, again, like, just because we're switching hardware, everyone that joins now, like, they're going to stay. You can stay for as long as you want with the device you joined with. So we want to make sure that's still a good experience long term. Mike, shall we go to some questions?
Let's hit it. Gertz.
Lord Voldemort says, design looks great. Thanks, Lord Voldemort. It's very nice. Gertz, is there any information about upcoming hardware? Exactly what type of information? Because I know, obviously we're not producing the hardware. So if you have any more specifics, I can try to answer. Sharp, how far off is mainnet for the Wingbits token? So we don't have an exact date, but it will happen before the end of year. So November, December ish. When we get a little closer, we will set an exact date. Hey, Aaron, how do we get a hold of a station? Are you referring to the new stations coming or the existing type of build your own device stations? See.
Star Caller. Real quick, how's testnet going? Are we getting closer to TGE? Yes and yes, or good and yes. In fact, most recently, there was an issue found where wallets that had both a host and an owner split of rewards, it was not being calculated properly. We actually knew about it a little while ago, but we just, as of today, resolved that issue. So the rewards will now be proper. I know you probably didn't hear a big thing about it. It's probably because we were over rewarding in that situation. And I'm sure a lot of people didn't jump to tell us, hey, stop sending me extra rewards. But some people did report it. We looked into it, took a little bit of time to figure out how we were going to resolve it. It was resolved today, so that's cool. If you literally go out there and set a host to 100% rewards and the owner gets 0, that is what's going to happen now. So the percentages are perfectly split and verified. So that's one of those things that I'm just saying that happens during testnet. There's still other things we need to do during this DevNet phase. It has been very helpful to have these test tokens and be able to validate a bunch of different stuff.
Yeah, and then one more thing with testnet also, one thing we're doing continuously now is kind of analyzing the earnings. And why we're doing that is because, we need to take this time to try to optimize if maybe we need to do, change the distribution time, make it shorter. Maybe we need to adjust the formula to essentially reward a little differently in specific instances and stuff like that. But the testnet's been really good to evaluate that. But yeah, so we're looking at that, and we want to make sure we get all that done before mainnet, obviously, so we start on the right foot, so to speak. Wild Clover, any ETA on the free Wingbits dongle? So I will have to get back to you with an exact ETA. A wild guess is somewhere like 6 to 10 weeks. And that's a wild guess. But I think that's somewhere in there. But I'll get back to you on that one. I know we're in the process, we're testing them right now to make sure there's no issues and stuff like that. Brute Farce, I've heard you guys have a dual miner with GeoNet. Can you touch on this, maybe a timeline for launch? So we are receiving our test devices now this week. We've tested them for a while, but we haven't had it in the office. So we're going to test it ourselves. And the timeline they set is pre-orders October 1st. Again, since we're not selling the device from our end, I can't speak to if that will change. If it is indeed October 1st, I would say be at least 8 to 10 weeks before they get delivered from there. But I will leave that to HiFix to come with more information, because again, we're not in control of the supply chain there.
And just to clarify, Robin, the unit that we are getting for testing is the solo miner for Wingbits, correct?
Yes, exactly.
So as far as the dual miner, we don't know.
Yeah. Aaron, are you saying new stations as if
how do we get a hold of them?
There's new the new stations you will buy from HiFix's resellers, and when it's ready, we'll provide links to them. Current stations, obviously, you can find what pieces you need in our documentation. And there's still some, like Mike said, I think 160 odd spots left for the build your own devices.
Correct.
Cello, I can share some of the use cases for now. Essentially, why we have to have NDAs is because there's not that many networks out there. And what we're used for now is mainly to complement data sets. So one use case that we're being used for right now is that a customer will buy our data live, and essentially they will fuse our data set with their existing data set, because there's multiple areas around the world where we actually have better coverage. And by fusing the two data sets, they get a more complete picture. So that's one of the use cases that they use it for. Another use case now is asset management, like essentially measure exposure for asset managers for insurance purposes. And what I mean by that is, let's say you own a fleet of 20 airplanes. You want to monitor and see where they are at all times, because let's say you have 5 airplanes at a specific airport. If there's an earthquake, you want to know what is your risk, essentially how much money is at stake if these 5 airplanes get destroyed from the earthquake. So that's one use case. Another use case is when airplane lessors, like essentially they lease out planes and they work with, regular airlines, or they work with maybe companies or private jet charters and stuff like that. When you lease an airplane, you have very specific, rules in the contract, how far you can fly, where you can fly in what regions, and how long you can spend in those regions. So they essentially need this data to track the fleet to see if they fly too far. Then they get fined because they can only fly so many miles. Or, for example, if they fly in an area like Middle East is a good example because there's a lot more sand in the air. So if you fly a lot there, you need to do more continuous maintenance. So they need to be able to monitor the flight to see like how much do they actually fly into that area to predict essentially when they need to do maintenance, because it's going to be ahead of regular schedule. So those are the first few. Then we have one app developer building a flight tracking app, but that one is just like a tiny little case. We're not charging for that one. So those are the current use cases. Obviously, when we get to a point, essentially we have some very clear KPIs of where we need to grow to sell certain products. So the KPIs are, the first one that we need to get is 3,000 antennas, and also covering the top 300 airports in terms of traffic volume. And that coverage needs to be below 1,000 feet around that airport, because if you have below 1,000 feet, you can essentially model exactly when it landed and took off. So that's the first level we need to reach. At like 5,000 antennas, we should have enough coverage to sell something that's called area of interest products. Essentially what that means is, let's say you sell data only for Japan or North America or Europe or Australia, but you can guarantee that within that area, there's no blind spot more than like 10 minutes where a plane is not tracked. So we need about 5,000 antennas for that. And then at 7,500 to 10,000 antennas, we should be in a position where we have near global coverage, not high enough redundancy everywhere, but near global coverage. And that's when essentially we could function as an exclusivity data provider. And it's generally at that time when you can announce publicly what customers you deal with. So hopefully that answered your question at least well enough for now.
All right.
Now, I lost where I was.
We're on Gertz. Basically, there's a whole bunch of questions coming up related to the new device. So, okay. What will it be based on? PoE, LTE available, situation with antennas. Will it be all in one with GNSS? That is never easy for me to say. Or separate. Will it still use GeoNet UM980? Okay, I'm going to play ignorant here. I don't know what GeoNet UM980 is. Do you have any answers to this, Robin? I know it's not PoE. I know it is. These units are using a combined Ethernet and power cable. I think Mike,
yeah, exactly.
Mike said that on the AMA last week, but a different Mike, not me, obviously, Mike from GeoNet. Just to clarify. So they're running tandem. They're running next to each other within a larger channel. So it's one kind of physical cable, but there's two cables in that, and they run down to the end and then split apart. So it's not true PoE. It is just a cable unit that has both power and Ethernet. It will be connected
exactly.
separately.
And then I think I understand it correctly, if it will all be in one. Everything will just be in one device. So you're never, like, it will just be kind of a UFO looking thing that GeoNet has. Either it will come with an antenna, you can use that on top, or if you have like a custom antenna that you built or that's really good, you can connect a custom ADS-B antenna from the side. But it will just be one device. So you don't have to have multiple. But yeah, for any other more deep questions, I think you're better off asking actually GeoNet, so we don't say anything that's incorrect.
Because we can do that. Trust me.
Yeah, me and ChatGPT can make stuff up.
any updates about GeoNet accepting payments to, again, this is out of our control, out of our purview, really. And
Yeah.
it will be based on whatever resellers, retailers, whatever you want to call them, that are going to be selling the devices as to what kind of payments they take. We're not involved in any of that at this point.
Yeah, and just to clarify, like we're not like this is a partnership because we believe one has good synergies and this will really benefit like the network from a data point of view. We're not like looking to sell these devices ourselves. We just want to get them out there and get the data. So this is all on them on those questions. Ancillary, yes, HiFix is the manufacturer.
And Heyman, the cable is the same idea for both WB 200 and 300.
Yeah. But I did hear, I think it was actually Grumpy that mentioned that he's had some issues with the Wi-Fi on his current GeoNet device. So obviously this will solve that where you can actually plug in Ethernet to it instead of just running Wi-Fi. If I'm not incorrect on that one.
You are correct.
Perfect. Sharp. Yeah, I this is a GeoNet question, but I think on GeoNet's website they have all the distributors that you can see that are selling their devices. I believe it's the same distributors that will sell these devices, although I don't know exactly where they're located. Let's see. Starcaller saw details on the HiFix station for Wingbits. It has 4G LTE, and it's also going to be upgrade for tracking drones. So the device comes pre-outfitted with a drone remote ID receiver. So that one is already in there. So it's not an upgrade. It's just there. And that's part of the device. And, you know, because like how drones will work is that you will have one subset of the drones that will be on the same frequency as aircraft, so ADS-B. And the smaller drones will be on 2.4 gigahertz. And that has, you know, way lower range. But still, you know, no one else is really in a position where they could track it, and they will have a clear impact on aviation, on the space, because they're sharing the same airspace. So that's why we thought it actually makes a lot of sense to prepare for the drones that are coming. That industry is growing 60% year over year. There's massive amounts of money flowing into it. So it's going to come, and I think our network will be really well positioned to also function as infrastructure for that segment. Let's see. Isaac, new stations will be better than existing ones. Will existing stations? You know what? That's why we want to do our internal testing. If you have a really good station now, it's honestly, it's more about the location. If you have a great station now in terms of coverage, you will probably track it the same. One thing that the new stations, you know, because the rewards will be the same for the existing stations and the new stations. The one thing that we might implement in the future is very small like bounty areas if we need like very, very specific like airport coverage in a specific section of the airport. Or to make that viable, we would have to have a really accurate location on a GPS. So for those areas, you could only use this new device. You could not use the existing devices. But outside of that, rewards will be the same. And you have a good device now, you're probably going to track about the same as you will with this new device. And Mike, feel free to correct me if I say something that's not correct.
The only thing I would add, so right now, excuse me, that was a big throat clear. Right now, our network, as it's been growing, it was initially focused on reaching as many hexes as you could, as far away as you could, so you get coverage, therefore rewarded. And that was a good tactic, and our reward system complements that, but it also complements as the network becomes more comprehensive, as there's more stations everywhere, especially in your area, that it might be more advantageous to you to pull in your coverage, such as lowering your gain, not lowering your antenna, but lowering the actual gain on the SDR, to pull your coverage in to focus on aircraft that are closer to you in the hexes that are literally right around you, as opposed to ones that are pretty far off. I wouldn't be surprised if through working with GeoNet HiFix that we work towards stations that are more focused on kind of complementing the local coverage as opposed to trying to really extend it. There is a good reason, and I don't want to spend a lot of time on this, but just to clarify, if you reach your high gain numbers and you're reaching really far hexes, you are potentially causing collisions where you're losing closer messages. If you are rank, 6, 7 or something in local hexes, you might be giving up a higher rank and therefore some bonus rewards because you're trying to reach a little bit further. And if you ever look at the coverage maps and the further ones, if the areas are pretty well covered already, you're getting, 0.01 wings, 0.0201 wing. Like that's not probably worth it versus getting a tighter coverage area around you and increasing your overall rewards. So we'll have a discussion about that in the future, near future, that talks about, maybe bringing your gain numbers down a little bit, covering something a little bit closer to you. If you're still out in the middle of nowhere and there's no one anywhere close to you, I mean, honestly, the rewards still are better for you if you keep your gain high, your coverage really wide.
Yeah.
I just think over time, our network is going to become a little bit tighter as far as coverage per station, which is good because they'll complement each other and it'll work best for the participants. And I think the new devices will help with that.
Yeah. Yeah, but one thing we know we need to improve is essentially just better. I mean, we have guides, but like as we develop the project, giving more clear instruction on, giving visibility into what people earn in specific areas, so you can kind of get an idea of that, but also trying different things to maximize your station based on where it's located. So that's going to be really nice. Let's see, BMO, would you classify an open source hardware design? So the plan is to open source this first hardware is, GeoNets, so can't speak for them. But we are going to open it up for pretty much any manufacturers to apply to manufacture devices for us in the future, similar to what Helium did, because it's better for the community if the manufacturers kind of get to, as long as they adhere to specifications, they can then compete on the margins, and over time that brings the price down. So I do think that's where we're going towards.
But on the flip side, we're probably, at least at this exact moment, I could say probably not going to create a reference design model and then open source that and say, just duplicate this and you can resell it, because then we're taking all the work on us and we don't want to be in the hardware business.
Yeah, that fair point. Sharp
Heart.
What DBA is? So the one actually upgraded this one, but do you know this one, Mike, what the latest one was?
Yeah, it was oh gosh, it's considered a 5.5 dBi on top. Okay. I don't remember what wave it is though. I don't remember if it's a half wave or a quarter wave, but it's a 5.5.
Gertz, no. So the drone tracking antenna is already inside the device, so you don't have to add anything else for that. Starcaller, are BYOD needing to upgrade to the drone feature later? So we haven't thought so much about that because the most important drones will be on the 1090 megahertz that you're already tracking. If there's a lot of commercial value in the smaller drones, which is what that antenna is for, then maybe. But it's pretty far out, honestly. I mean, the industry is really not mature yet. I mean, it will get there. But so we'll keep an eye on that and see. It wouldn't be too much hassle to create an upgrade kit, I don't think. But again, I'm not a hardware engineer, so probably it's a lot of hassle, but we can figure that one out. Hey, MediaTek.
Anything can be done if you throw money at it. That's not true. That's not true at all.
Kind of in a way. How will the new device update will get? Yes, they will get over-the-air updates.
And also recently discussed possibly the ability for some to access it manually in case there's some kind of network or firewall issue in certain regions. All right. Well, seems like we're all done. All the questions are done.
Starcaller asked, "Is there an amount for these devices?" Yeah, I think GeoNet announced it's $395 for the Wingbits only miner, and I believe they said $995 for the dual miner.
Hold on. Is there an amount or is there a mount? He might mean the mount on the antenna.
Mount. I thought sorry, mount. Yeah, so there is on the device, you have the kind of like a metal rod underneath that you can mount, but it doesn't have like a Mike. You can explain this better. It doesn't clip onto the roof. It doesn't have like that.
Yeah, I don't know if I can. So basically, there's a rod that screws into the bottom. I don't want to say other project names. It's been done similarly in others, but basically the rod would come down out of the center of the unit. Then you would have a mount that would go to whatever pole you have. You may have a J mount or some kind of mount that comes off of your main pole. You may just have it attached to the top of a pole. Think of it like you'll end up with a rod that looks similar to an antenna, which you would just mount to whatever you would normally mount the antenna to. That's probably about the best I could say. Or you just stick it in the ground. I'm just kidding. Don't do that.
Let's see.
Is there any sort of cap on the number of new devices that will be allowed on the network? Will the number of devices affect future earnings while on mainnet? Or is it about the quality of the data?
Well, so there's no cap that we've set yet, but obviously, if there are 1,000 devices kind of join very close together in an area, it will affect the earnings, like per device in that area. But that's why we are wanting to create this function where before you pick your area or before you buy anything, you can actually monitor, you can see what are the antennas earning in this area, so you can better make a decision if it's worthwhile for you or not based on that area. We think, because we have people that join for different reasons. Obviously, earnings are a big portion. Some people, we've had they want to just track. They want track planes. They want partner network. They don't care as much about the earnings. Obviously, that's not majority. So we don't want to cap it. But we want to give all the tools to the participants to be able to make an educated decision whether or not they should deploy in a specific area.
But quality of data is important as well. And the fact that, we've talked before, there's a reasonable number of stations that you need to perform other features like MLAT. Additionally, for things like MLAT, having a non-self-reported location, having a device that actually has a valid timestamp and not one that is, I don't know if everybody here is a Linux person, but if you're not running NTP service or something that's syncing your time, you can have your clock off by seconds to even minutes or hours. But the point of these devices, including the GeoSigner dongle itself, is to more precisely put the location of the station. I felt like I was conjunction junction. What's your function? But no, what's your station location with the data as well as a proper timestamp, so that way the calculations on MLAT can be precise. Right now, you could have 3 stations out of 5 with incorrect self-reported locations. They could have their timestamp be off slightly, just a few seconds, and all those things affect the calculations. And there's multiple ways to do the calculations, but all of them require you to have good data, because garbage in, garbage out is a popular phrase, and that's what happens. So I just wanted to clarify that the quality of the data is always important. It's going to be for the bring your own, build your own devices. It's also important for the new approved devices, and achieving that certain number of stations in redundancy is going to help us a lot. We just want to be transparent so people don't get too far ahead. You don't want to have too many stations in one area.
Yeah, no, exactly. But again, if people just know what to expect and they can make the decision, then I think it makes it very fair, because then you can decide yourself if you feel like it's worth it in a specific area or not. But when we are seeing a lot of people now, finding hosts in other countries, and obviously that's maybe not always easy, but that's definitely the best way of doing it if you have the option, if you can find some kind of like empty areas. And also, now when we're iterating on the formula, one thing that most likely will come is some sort of bonus associated with the airport coverage, like if you're on the ground, because that itself is a product, so it has a clear value to the customers. So again, I mean, already it's good to get the airport ground coverage because you get more data in comparison, most likely, to everyone else. But if you have the ability to get an antenna near an airport and you get the planes rolling around, that will be a great way of kind of future-proofing your device.
Yeah.
Let's see. Sharp. I can never say it right. Sharp harp. I don't know why I say sharp. Yes, we're very excited about GeoNet. We are starting to look to see what other networks because it's quite important that if you do a partnership, that both networks can benefit from it. Like with GeoNet, for example, if you look at spoof data is a really big problem, and it's very dangerous because right now all the planes, it's all software. If they get enough spoof data, their navigation system will literally shut off and you have to reboot the plane, which is kind of hard to do when you're flying. And also GPS jamming. But having these references in form of the GeoNet devices that are very accurate, but also, the existing ones with the GeoSigner will also be good reference points. You can actually kind of start building a function where you can kind of counteract. You say, okay, well, it's being spoofed, but we can actually verify where it is based on the time the signal took from the plane to maybe 3 or 4 specific stations where we know exactly where they are. So that's why the partnership is really good. We also have similar requirements in terms of hosting the antenna location, like you want open sky. That's quite important for both of us. But also, this data that we collect, I mean, that's the data you actually use to create the GPS jamming maps. And that's also valuable for GeoNet because they work a lot with, drone companies that do specific area drone work. So they need the tracking. Drones can have a reference point to the GeoNet device. We can use the reference point of the device to create better infrastructure for all these future flying taxis and drones and unmanned air vehicles and that sort of thing. So it's a very good synergy. If you have any suggestions for partnerships, please let me know. I mean, maybe something weather related would make sense. I don't know. But yeah, definitely open for suggestions.
If I could swing back to wishes, I know you answered, but I just wanted to clarify because I'm not sure if there was any confusion there. Are you still in here? Wishes? Gosh, I can't read all the people in time. Yes, you are. So just to clarify, there's not protection for the first device in a coverage hex. Your earnings will be based on your contribution percentage versus anyone else that contributes. I know Robin was clarifying that new devices versus old devices will earn the same rewards. You participate at the same level. You participate in the pool exactly the same. But from a hex rewards perspective, there's not any protection for the first device. We don't have plans for that. We actually need more than one device covering a hex. The hexes are quite large and potentially a lot of planes in them. So
yeah, I don't know if, but we're not gonna. Everyone at least will participate on the same rules or same level. No one gets screwed, essentially. The existing device is not going to have a lower earnings multiple or something like that.
Right. Same formula applies to both.
Yeah. Let's see.
D. It would be cool. We talked about this. I could have sworn there was a suggestion already in the suggestions channel that we were discussing related to seeing when a station onboards. There's some slight difficulties in that because obviously I can tell you from experience, a lot of people on board with an antenna inside, for better or worse, and they get it going and they want to test everything, and then it runs for a few days and then sometimes even a week, and then it gets their permanent outdoor installation. So we've had discussions about that in the public Discord, talking about how would that really be interpreted? Is that the right information? I think a general idea is kind of cool. So that way, like, oh, this station came online in September. This one came online October. Again, you're not getting any specific information, but maybe something more general might help you. And I get most of the people asking that or suggesting that or looking at it from a personal rewards perspective. Like, why are my rewards going down? I want to know, is it new stations coming up? Am I having a situation with my hardware, my station? So I get where you're going with that. I think there is a suggestion in there already. If there is, let's keep discussing it in there. If not, post one, please, as Max said. Gertz.
Yeah. Will you take this one, Mike?
Sure. Will there be any local access to new devices? I mean, to be able to pull something like JSON data to use with something else like Home Assist, for example. Any maps, graphs. So if you look at our documentation site, Gertz, there's recently added, and it's not like we announced it, or did we? I don't even remember now. It's been a busy few weeks. There's a new approved hardware program page that outlines what we're looking for in the hardware that people design. We would like, obviously, some access to the device if you're on the local network, so that you can view certain information to help you decide if the station's functioning properly or not. We've also tried to figure out how much of this can we offload to the Wingbits side. Like, is there an amount of stuff that we can produce? Do we have all the data that we need to produce something similar on a server side? And by doing that, you wouldn't even have to worry about, oh, well, that's a machine I've got hosted somewhere else. I don't have access to their network. In the case of having it on the Wingbits site, you'd actually be able to go to Wingbits, look at the dashboard or a page similar to dashboard, and see like how that specific station is doing, what's its stats are doing over time. So we've had a lot of discussions. We continue to have a lot of discussions. Take a look at the approved hardware page. It does talk about some of the stuff that we suggest, some of the stuff that we kind of want to see on there. And we've mentioned stuff like being able to see a graphs 1090 would be helpful for the participants.
Let's see what we got. H&K mentioned this in the general chat and suggestion. Special colors for aircraft with emergency transponder. So we will do a ton of feature updates during the remainder of this year. Definitely one thing is optimizing the map. This is one of the things that we're looking at. We're also looking at filtering for specific planes. And in the new version of ADS-B that they're working on, no one has to upgrade anything. They will just roll it out, so the planes will just send more info in the signal. They also include turbulence indicators, which would be really cool because turbulence is actually becoming quite a big problem. So then you can show on the map, like if there's a plane that's experiencing like super rough turbulence, where in the world they are. Obviously, squawk messages and stuff like that we could filter for or highlight. So things like that will come because again, the map has changed color. There hasn't been a lot of changes. There will be a lot of changes over the next few months.
I think it is important to point out that the devs in the team have made changes on the back end on how certain things work related to the map, which kind of puts you in a position to be able to how do we want to filter planes? Do we want to show them in different colors? So I think work done that you don't see is stuff that leads up to being able to do the stuff we want to do. So that's should be called out.
Yeah, exactly. See some giveaway merch drop by Sharp Harp here. Hoodie feature. Yeah, we can do that. I actually thought about making what I want to do is make some hoodies where you get your hoodie, people can scan a QR code and they can see your coverage from your antenna, and you can say like Wingbits, check my coverage on a QR code on the back, and everyone can check out your coverage. I think that would be super fun. Yeah, we are actually trying to figure out some cool ways. We'll be doing some competitions and stuff like that. Moving forward, there'll be some giveaways. We'll have some merch and some other cool things. So yeah, definitely on the horizon. Not sure about the arm wrestling, but not bad idea. It'd be fun.
It's only because you don't want to see me arm wrestling. I'm like the Brian Shaw School of Arm Wrestling. I'm ready for it, man. You don't know. Been preparing for this all my life.
It's all led up to this.
Yep.
Perfect. Wishes. How many devs in the team working full time in the project, and any plans for future expansion? So let's say full time. Right now there are, I guess there's only full time two part time. We have one more full time joining October 1st, and we're gonna hire 3 more. So we're gonna hire 2 more full stack kind of back end focused developers and 1 more full stack front end focused to really just continuously work on the platform and like the consumer facing side with implementing features, making the experience better. So we are expanding. We have just onboarded, tomorrow we're onboarding a new goal for marketing side. We also onboarded one not too long ago on the marketing side. We got a data scientist joining November. It's going to be really interesting. We had a business developer join a while back. And we had some people on the hardware side join to help us with this whole, creating these specifications. And then we're probably going to add at some point a little more support on the community side, because it's it's getting really busy, and we want to make sure that we're available and don't get overloaded. So yeah, definitely some expansion plans. Heyman, will we get a Wingbits app? Yes, you will get a Wingbits app. We are actually looking at how it should look, how it should work, and all that sort of cool things. So it will come. It will be the most amazing app of all apps. I'm not building it, so I can just kind of overpromise.
Sales pitch. It's just going to be amazing. It's going to do everything.
Number 1 in the App Store.
Turn on your lights, handle your banking, whatever you need to do. It's an all-in-one app.
Maybe we'll just do Elon's goal of the everything app.
Isn't there one? Man, I read. Oh, by the way, we're down to 8 minutes left. I read I read an article a while ago that there was an app. I can't remember if it was Arab Emirates kind of area or something. There was some kind of app that like did a ton of stuff. It was like literally an all-in-one app that you could.
WeChat.
Is that what it was?
Well, WeChat is the Chinese app. You can do all kinds of stuff with it. I mean, if anyone in here is more experienced with WeChat than I am, I used it for my last company. But I think you can like book taxis, order food, pay your bills, all your subscriptions for I think you can do everything in WeChat.
Yeah.
If someone is more knowledgeable, let me know.
I think that was the basis for it. I remember someone talking about making something similar, and it was actually in the crypto space, making something similar that did that for another region of the world. And I know it became a hot topic for a very short period of time where everybody was like, yeah, we should all have all-in-one apps, and then nothing.
Yeah. Yeah. Wishes want some gaming in there. So there is some cool stuff coming, like leaderboards for not just for like amount of planes caught, but streaks, like how long you've been online, and achievements, different kind of badges. There'll be a lot of stuff coming. So it'll be. I'm super excited. I just wish it went faster. Yeah, now is definitely the time to come with suggestions in the suggestion channel for what would be cool to have in the app. So, any ideas? Put them in there.
Well, Isaac's talking about Pokemon Go. I don't know anything about it, but I know someone who does.
Plain go.
Oh, there you go.
Gotta catch them all the planes.
Can you imagine running outside? So some of the at least one of the current flight apps, you go out there and you could do the augmented reality and point it around and see where the crafts are in the sky and everything. You imagine one where you gotta like swipe them or something to like capture them. You're just like swiping the planes out of the sky.
Yeah, it's like Fruit Ninja, but with planes.
Yes.
Yeah. That would be dark.
Yeah, it might not work.
Yeah.
Maybe you got to poke them and then balloons fly up. See, that's better. You're just poking them.
There we go. Poke the plane and see who's on the plane.
We have 6 minutes left. We do have a hard stop today, so
yeah, I actually have to leave in 3 minutes because I have to have time to get to the next meeting.
All right, we have 3 minutes left.
Yeah. Any other projects doing drone tracking? I think there's a ton of projects working within the drone industry, but generally what they do is they have very specific areas. Maybe they're like, okay, we'll set up receivers around an industrial area or like around a specific airport, those type of things. But no one right now, from what I've found, is like attempting to do a global drone infrastructure. So that's kind of what we want to do. We're not, because like it's not super scalable doing only specific use cases, in my opinion, because it's a lot of work for one thing. Whereas here it's like, someone needs to provide this global infrastructure. So we think that's a better focus for us. I mean, you have like UAvionics on the traditional side. They do a lot with drones, working with airports or like, government kind of like areas and stuff like that. And their devices are thousands and thousands of dollars. They're a really good company. But again, they're not doing the kind of the big picture global network. Let's see, got 2 more minutes. Let's see. Is it possible to get data from Jeppesen? So Jeppesen is owned by Boeing. It's used for everything from crew planning to scheduling the flights and all kinds of data. So Jeppesen actually get their data right now from Flight Radar because Flight Radar sells their data to Boeing. So that's obviously like in the future a customer that we would want to sell data to. So Jeppesen, they only have their own data for their planes. They don't have the Airbus data or all the jet fleets and stuff. They only have for the Boeing planes. But that's not really tracking. That's more just engine performance and fuel burn and those sort of things. Route info. So to get the flight routes like origin and destination, there's some open source, but they're not super up to date. Most commonly, people get it from a company called OAG. It's called OAG, and you purchase the routes essentially from them. Price is based on how many times you pull the updated information. So we will add origin and final destinations to the map in the future. It's quite expensive. That's why we haven't done it yet. And the customers we talk to, they already have that, so they don't need it. But at some point, we're definitely going to need it just from an experience point of view. Is that what you're asking, H&K? Just so I'm not misunderstanding.
And you're
I'll take
one
more question.
Okay.
Yeah, I got one more question, then I got to go. So I don't miss the next one. Gotta type super fast. So they don't really determine routes based on winds. It's kind of like aligned with their airport control to see where the other planes are flying. So it's not so much based on winds, but people are working on trying to optimize the route based on winds right now because they don't do it currently. All right, guys, I really have to go. If you have any more questions, I will answer them after. But again, thanks so much for being here, everybody. Hopefully the stage was valuable, and can't wait to see you in the next stage. Thanks for being in the project. Bye, everybody.
Thanks, guys. Bye.